I think it could be path to like getting promotions and people recognizing you because people are like, man, they're asking like, she's asking some great questions. There's also people that want to suppress it and push it down and say, hey, I don't do your job. I don't want to hear this, but those people suck. What kind of advice would you offer them to begin pushing the boundaries and begin trying to put a real event marketing program in place?
You got to come up with the data. Most leaders are very data driven people. And so I think aside from building trust and building rapport and getting them to actually listen to you respectfully, I think you have to come with examples. You've got to come with data, and you've got to come with companies similar or better than you that are doing it and doing it well. So when you go in front of your C-suite or you go in front of your executive leadership team and you have this idea of this awesome campaign or you have this idea of this awesome experiential value that you want to add to the booth, you need to show them, well, so-and-so did it, and this is the impact it had. In full transparency, and I don't know, someone might slap my wrist for even saying this, but I recently did that. There was a company that I saw at an event that did something extremely well, and I went back to our marketing team and I shared it instantly. And I was like, this is awesome. This is why we need to be doing things like this. This is why we invest in more value in XYZ. I'm not going to get too much into detail, but you got to do that. You got to show examples. You got to show, if you want to be the best, you got to look at the best. And so that's the best way to do it. You can't just talk about it. You got to show it.
Yeah. I like that advice because you've obviously sat in those shoes. You are in those shoes. You're doing things like that. I've constantly given the advice of like, I think young marketers in particular are people that are put in a position where they don't have 10, 15 years of experience of doing something and they're proven and they're just given something. Is I always say, you tell me if I'm wrong on this, but it's like, ask questions, involve yourself. Don't just carry out the task and ask questions. Why are we there? What have we done in the past? Do we get results from this show? Like you got to get curious. And you have to think like a marketer because it's events, but it's event marketing.
I would definitely stress that to any young professionals coming up who are joining an organization. Do your roadshow throughout the organization and ask questions, qualifying questions, tap into the history, tap into where they want to go, tap into how they're doing it now. But ask. It's the best thing that I can recommend. And speak up too. If you have suggestions, speak up. And this is what I always say about speaking up is like, even if you're dead wrong, I can guarantee you the question that you asked or the comment that you made has sparked some level of some idea in someone's head. You could be dead wrong, but I guarantee you it's going to get someone to think. And if you can get one person in the room to think, mission accomplished. So you got to speak up and you got to ask questions.
You know, what's funny about you saying that is I also feel like being curious is a double-edged sword at big companies sometimes where I think it could be path to like getting promotions and people recognizing you because people are like, man, they're asking like, she's asking some great questions. There's also people that want to suppress it and push it down and say, hey, I don't, do your job. I don't want to hear this, but those people suck. Like those people suck. But the good leaders are going to see somebody asking smart questions and be like, okay, they may not know what they're doing, but they know what they're doing. They're curious. They're asking. They want things to be better. They want to make sure that it's result driven. They're not just carrying out tasks.
I would be afraid to work for someone who didn't ask questions. And I would be afraid to have someone work for me who did not ask questions. I've been very lucky in my career where every leader, knock on wood, but every leader that I've had has been open to me asking questions and they've allowed me to ask questions. Again, I'm one of the lucky few, but every single leader I've had, and when I would ask questions, they would give me answers and they would bounce it back on me and they would want to hear what I have to say. Like I've never been in a role where I've had a leader who's just been like, hush, do the job. I've always been in a role where people hire me because they want to hear what I have to say.
Of course.
And that's the kind of organization you want to be part of.
You know, it's funny. I've done a lot of hiring over the last however long, but one thing I've learned is that when I'm hiring people now is I always say, I'm going to know in the first 90 days, 120 days, if you're not asking me questions, I'm going to know you're not a good fit because you're not curious. You're not going to push the status quo. You're not going to challenge me or us or others. And the more questions you ask, the better you're going to get at something. It's guaranteed.
Absolutely. And that goes both ways as well. If you're in a position where you are asking the questions and you're not getting the response or the space to ask those questions, then you should also be saying to yourself, I'm in the wrong place.
That's trouble. Yeah, without question. I always tell people I know who ask, when people ask me about jobs and things like that, I always say, hey, like you got to vet them as much as they're going to vet you.